And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes. You're terrorizing our streets. You're violating our rights to peacefully protest again and again and again.
None of
and then
that
when
is
a court
true.
tells you
None
to
of
stop,
that is true.
and then when a court
You are
tells
trying
you to stop,
to impede
you
us
violate
from enforcing
judges'
the
orders,
law
not in
and
a
getting
partisan
dangerous
way,
criminals off of our streets
Republican-appointed and
so we don't have more
Democratic-appointed.
families like the ones that are
Don't
sitting
sit
behind
there
me.
and tell me that
Lost
you are
their children, are
responsible
gone forever.
for the running of your agency when you're not even aware. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position if you...
This hearing doesn't ease into controversy, it detonates into it. What you're about to watch is a slow burn interrogation that turns into a full-blown indictment. And it starts with something deceptively simple: accountability. One senator walks in with receipts, examples, and a very clear objective: to force answers. The other? She walks in claiming control, but within minutes, that control starts slipping. Watch closely how this unfolds. At first, it sounds procedural, standard oversight, routine questions. But beneath the surface, there's tension building with every response. Because the more direct the questions get, the more evasive the answers become. And that's where everything starts to shift. This isn't just about policy disagreements. This is about whether a federal agency is detaining American citizens, whether leadership even knows about it, and whether the person in charge can defend what's happening under oath.
Now it's Senator Booker's turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, you're in charge of your agency. The buck stops with you, correct?
I'm in charge of my agency, what?
The buck stops with you,
Yes, correct.
And you had to swear an oath to the Constitution before you took this job, right?
Correct.
So one of the most sacrosanct ideals of our nation, enshrined in our Constitution, is freedom, is liberty.
Mm-hmm.
It is an idea that the government has a very high standard should they take away liberty and freedom from an American citizen. How many U.S. citizens has DHS detained as of last October?
Senator, if you're talking about detained and arrested, is that those that have been violating and obstructing our law enforcement operations? Is that what you're referencing? Because it could be hundreds and hundreds. We have faced violent riots across the country,
you are
specifically
saying that
in Portland and in
the only
Minneapolis.
people you've detained are committing crimes, but you and I both know
No,
that's
I haven't
not true.
said that. I didn't
so
say
then
that. I
how
asked
many
which ones you were
people
referencing.
have you detained?
I can't give you an accurate number because we've literally detained and arrested many for those obstruction of law enforcement operations, and
So
also
public
others
records,
that had probable
let me tell you
cause.
what my staff researched.
And then released
May
once
I
they- yes.
continue? Public records are showing that over 170 incidents of your agency unlawfully taking away the liberties and freedoms of American citizens. This includes 20 children, 20 American kids that your agency detained. How long can your agency detain an American citizen?
We don't detain children and separate them from their parents. Those parents have chosen
You're telling me
to
under
keep their
oath
child
right now.
with
Hold on.
them.
I just want to be clear. You're telling me under oath right now that your agency has not detained American children.
Those parents have chosen to keep their children with them. We don't separate families like the
So,
Biden
hold on.
administration
Let me
did.
continue.
We keep them
Let me-
together, and parents
please
have the
let me
option
continue.
on if they want their child with them or not with them.
How long do detentions last when you detain an American citizen? How long do they last?
We don't detain American citizens, and if there's
well,
probable cause.
Let me give you, because you are not speaking truthfully under oath. Isaiah Pena Salcedo, a U.S. citizen living in California, was detained more than 70 hours, almost 3 days, even after he showed ICE agents his passport. My colleague, Senator Blumenthal, gave you example after example. He brought people here who had something else we Americans consider sacrosanct, our home, our property. Your masked agents jumping out of unmarked cars have broken into considerable property damage occurring into American citizens' homes. Case after case of this, and you sit here before me and claim the buck stops with you, but you don't even know the names of these individuals. I ran New Jersey's largest municipal police department. When my officers engaged in misconduct, you can be damn well sure I knew about it and I investigated it. And yet you have situations where your officers are violating the sanctity of people's homes, arresting and detaining them and holding their children. And you're acting as if you don't know about it and saying that under oath.
Right there, that's the moment the hearing starts to tilt. It begins with a basic principle. The buck stops with you. And she agrees. That should be the strongest position you can take as a leader: ownership, responsibility, control. But what happens next completely undercuts that claim. Because as soon as the questions get specific, numbers, cases, names, the answers disappear. Notice the pattern. When asked how many American citizens have been detained, there's no number, not even a rough estimate, just deflection. And not subtle deflection. We're talking about pivoting into general talk about riots, law enforcement, anything except the actual question. That's your first red flag. Then Booker tightens the screws. He brings up documented incidents, over 170 cases, including children. And instead of engaging with that data, she denies the premise entirely. That's a risky move, because once you deny something on the record, you better be airtight. But he doesn't let it slide. He introduces a specific case, a U.S. citizen detained for nearly 3 days despite showing a passport. This is where the dynamic changes. It's no longer abstract. It's no longer hypothetical. It's concrete. It's personal. And most importantly, it's verifiable. And look at the response. There isn't one. That silence? That's not just a missed answer. That's a loss of ground. From this point forward, she's not controlling the exchange, she's reacting to it. And Booker knows it. He shifts from questions to contrast. He talks about his own experience running a police department, emphasizing awareness, accountability, investigation. He's not just challenging her answers, he's challenging her leadership. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the core accusation isn't just that mistakes were made. It's that she doesn't even know about them. That she's sitting there, claiming responsibility, while being unaware of the very incidents that define that responsibility.
Miramar Martinez, who is here right now, on her way to church, an American citizen going to church, not just to worship, but to donate clothing. Your officers shot her multiple times. The case was thrown out of court, and you represent here that you don't know about it. In New Jersey, are you aware of your officers' activities in places like schools? Are you aware of your officers' activities at our public schools?
Sir, we don't go into schools and do targeted law enforcement operations. We do targeted law enforcement operations like other agencies
So you're
and law
telling me that
enforcement
ICE officers entered the grounds of a high school in Minneapolis? That's a fact. Elementary school children in New Jersey are terrified of your agents. When they came upon a school bus stop, they fled. Another school, a higher education, Columbia University, your agents reportedly lied to students, told them they were searching for a missing person to gain access to private spaces, to non-public areas of campus. Secretary Noem, these are kids. They're terrified in our communities. How do you think that affects them when children in my state go running, fleeing, and often you all pursue children, throwing them to the ground, getting on their backs, putting them in handcuffs. I want to talk to you about this incredible empire of for-profit companies that are profiting at rates we've never seen, and the way you're using money. Let's drill down on the warehouses that DHS has been buying over the last several months, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you familiar with the acquisition of a warehouse DHS recently bought in Roxbury Township, New Jersey?
Yes.
You are familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. I'm
Do you
familiar
know
that
how
it's...
much you spent for it?
No, sir, I do not.
$129.3 million. Do you know how much it was assessed for in New Jersey?
Sir, we're purchasing centers across the country to build efficiency into our detention system.
Efficiency to
so that
me,
we
as
can...
a person who's run tight budgets before and had taxpayer dollars, you paid $129.3 million for a facility in my state that was assessed at less than half of that, at $62 million. To work for a president that says he's a great deal maker, I can't believe he thinks that you're a great deal maker. But what's worse than that is that the Roxbury Township Council, comprised entirely of Republicans, voted unanimously early this year to oppose that facility. My office tried to facilitate a meeting between DHS and local officials so that ICE could hear their concerns, yet DHS did not even respond. That is unacceptable, that you all would enter a town. You wouldn't even follow environmental reviews or have conversations with local officials about the resources, from emergency resources to fire resources and more, that you're going to pull down. You didn't even have a conversation. Secretary Noem, do you comply with court orders?
Yes, we do comply
Your
with
agency
court
complies
orders.
with court orders.
Yes, we comply
That,
with federal
again,
court
you were
orders.
saying under oath that you do, and yet we know in January the chief judge, Republican appointed for the Federal District of Minnesota, found that ICE had violated nearly 100 court orders since January 1st alone. In my state of New Jersey, last month, the chief of staff to Deputy Attorney General admitted in my state that in the New Jersey District Court that the government had violated 52 separate court orders, all involving cases where immigrants successfully challenged the legality of their detention. So this, again, is a constitution that you swore an oath to, and one of the most important ideals is that no one is above the law. You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out-of-control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government.
This is where the hearing goes from tense to explosive. Because now Booker isn't just questioning, he's stacking. One example after another. Schools, children, homes, court orders, spending. It's not random, it's strategic. Each point builds on the last, creating a narrative that's hard to escape. Let's break down what just happened. First, the schools. When asked directly about operations in schools, she denies it. Flatly. But Booker immediately counters with specific instances. A high school in Minneapolis, terrified elementary school children, agents approaching bus stops. This is a classic pressure point. When denial meets documented claims, credibility is on the line. And again, there's no clear reconciliation, no detailed rebuttal, just general statements. Then comes something even heavier, the shooting of an American citizen. This isn't policy anymore. This is life and death consequence. And Booker presents it as a case she should absolutely be aware of. But again, the implication is that she isn't. That's devastating in a setting like this. Because leadership isn't just about setting direction. It's about knowing what's happening under your watch. And the more examples he brings up, the more that gap becomes impossible to ignore. Then he pivots again, this time to money. A $129 million warehouse purchase, allegedly valued at less than half that amount. Now the focus is on competence, decision-making, stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and once again, she doesn't have the number. Do you see the pattern? Every major category, enforcement, civil rights, operations, spending, he finds a pressure point. And in each one, the response lacks specificity. That's not just a bad moment, that's a consistent vulnerability. But the most damaging section might be what comes next. Court orders. Because this isn't about interpretation or opinion, this is about compliance with the law. He cites nearly 100 violations in one district, over 50 in another. And then he brings it back to the oath, the Constitution. This is where the argument reaches its peak. He's no longer asking questions. He's making a case that the agency is out of control, that it's violating rights, that it's ignoring court orders, and that the person in charge either doesn't know or doesn't care. And then comes the line that changes everything. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. That's not just criticism. That's a binary accusation. And both options are devastating. At that point, the hearing isn't about answers anymore. It's about judgment. And the final blow? A direct call for her to step down, or be removed, or be impeached. That's not a casual statement. That's the culmination of everything that came before it. And notice her response. I appreciate the encouragement. That's it. No detailed defense, no counterargument, no attempt to dismantle the claims, just a brief, almost dismissive remark. And that silence, that lack of pushback, speaks louder than anything else in this exchange. Because in moments like this, the audience isn't just listening to what's said. They're watching how it's handled. Who's prepared? Who's informed? Who's in control? And by the end of this clip, it's very clear how that balance shifted. What started as a standard oversight hearing turned into a sustained, escalating challenge. One that exposed gaps, forced uncomfortable admissions, and ended with a direct call for removal. If you want more breakdowns like this where powerful people get pressed on the record, hit subscribe and drop your take in the comments. Who do you think came out stronger in this hearing? And what was the one moment that changed the whole exchange?